The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And tonight we have our very special Hall of Fame edition as we inducted our 13th class into the Athletics Hall of Fame. We're coming to you from the Door Arena inside the Alumni Fieldhouse. And we're going to begin tonight's program by letting each one of our Hall of Famers introduce each other. So please, I'm going to start down here on my left.
Frank Barbuto, 1964.
Cornelius Lynch, Cortland, 1957.
Bill Tremont, graduated in 1999, member of the men's lacrosse team.
Christine Fitzpatrick Monfort, used to be known as Fitz. I graduated in 1974.
Dr. Janie Grassdorf, graduated from Cortland in 1962, and I'm the honorary inductee.
David Ranieri, graduated in 1982, men's soccer.
Lacey Musso Viola, graduated in 2004, and I'm part of the women's volleyball team.
Now, certainly an outstanding group of individuals each year. Even though there may be decades between all of you, certainly you all share a common bond, which is that you are all outstanding athletes, coaches, administrators, and did so much to help our programs grow here. But I'd like to start down here with Frank because he's the elder statesman here as far as Oneonta goes. Why don't you tell us about what this means to you to be a Hall of Famer and certainly what
I finally reached the top. I've won a lot of things in high school and college, but this means a lot to me. We didn't have a mechanism to become All-Americans. I'm never disappointed in that. I'm glad to be called the Oneonta Hall of Famer. So to me, this is my All-American status.
Now, Cornelius, actually, everybody knows you as Corky out there. So now you were a coach, longtime coach, our first men's lacrosse coach, coached with Garth Stam for many years with our men's soccer program, and you coached two of our national championship divers. So what does this mean to come back today and be forever enshrined on our wall?
It's quite an honor. After a number of years have passed, as you get older, you reflect back on what you've done, and again, I'm very happy to be here, and it is quite an honor. Thank you.
And Bill, member of a very successful men's lacrosse program, Conference Player of the Year, All-American, first player to surpass 200 career points. What does this mean for you?
I'd say it's very special. In a team sport, it's nice to get the individual honors, but it'd be nice to see more of the lacrosse program in the future in a situation like this. So if this can help motivate some of the current athletes, that would be one of the goals of mine. But it does mean a lot. It kind of helps sum up and finalize, a successful career.
Now, of course, Christine, you played three sports back in the day, early in Oneonta athletics for women. You were on some of our first varsity teams. You were volleyball, basketball, and softball. Three-time national tournament participant back in the old AIAW, and you unveiled your T-shirt from 40 years ago. Why don't you tell us what this means for you?
Well, this means the world to me. I'm so thrilled to be here, especially to have my own children, see me get this honor because I'm more than just mom now, and they see what it was like, in the 70s. And I just loved every second of my stay here from 70 to 74. I enjoyed every minute playing sports, and this is just the highlight of my life.
And certainly, Jane, you were here for 30 years as synchronized swimming coach, director of intramurals, physical education instructor. You impacted so many different areas on our campus and in our college, and certainly being an honorary inductee for your distinguished service. And even now, you're always the first to raise your hand whenever we need somebody to help us out at a game. So what does this mean for you?
This is the highlight of my career. It finishes, I loved Oneonta. I really enjoyed all of my years here, and this is the culmination of that career.
Now, Dave, member of our men's soccer team, back when we were a Division I program, you played for Hall of Fame coach Garth Stam. You grew up in Oneonta, of course, and you went to the local college, as everyone says, and so now for you, this is kind of a full circle.
Definitely very special, one of the highlights of my career and life. I was recruited by Garth to come here and play. I really wasn't thinking about it as being someone from Oneonta High School in Oneonta, but it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever been associated with.
Now, Lacey, member of our women's volleyball team, NCAA tournament participant, SUNYAC champion, player of the year for the SUNYAC East Division, All-American. The accolades are there, but for you now, you've only been out 8 years, so for you, you're the youngin now in this group. What does it mean for you to share this moment with all of these people?
Like I said last night, I was truly blessed to be here and even be considered to be put into the Hall of Fame. Like you said, I only graduated 8 years ago. So, of course, I wanted to be inducted. It was something I was really hoping would happen to me. I did not expect it to come already, and it means a lot to me, and I can't tell you how proud I am today to sit here with all of you today.
Now, memories and kind of maybe teammates. I'd like to maybe get you to share some of those, who the teammates that you practiced. I mean, you were 24 hours a day. You're just around them all the time, and obviously for you, Corky and Jane, being involved with the student athletes in different areas as a coach, and certainly in the intramural area. Why don't we start with Christine? Teammates, some of them came back to say, congratulations today. What does that mean?
Well, the sports I played were all team sports, and so, I couldn't get to this point without my teammates. And, we traveled together, we shared meals together, we, laughed and cried together, and because things were, so underdeveloped in those days, we went through a lot that I think today's athletes maybe, might not. And, our coach driving the minibus to games, and sometimes, some of the members of the team weren't able to come, and that really hurt us, and, we felt their pain. And so, yeah, it meant a lot to me, and especially a couple of ladies came up to me after the presentation today, and they said that I brought the things that I had talked about, the way things were, had brought back such vivid memories for them, and they said, it was great to have them come out and be recognized,
as part of that group.
Right.
Again, we call you a pioneer because in the early days, but you are. I mean, truly started in the growth of our women's athletics program. So for them to hear that, and they are part of that group as well. So for them to share that moment, it's got to be pretty special.
Although at the time we didn't know we were pioneers. Yeah. We just knew we loved to play sports, and this was our venue to play, Yep. So, but yeah.
Cornelius, coaching some of the elite athletes that we had here during the time in the 3 sports that you did. What kinds of things stand out for you with dealing with some of those student athletes?
To me, it's an honor because I had probably the #1 diver I've ever known or had came to see me. A couple of our soccer players that we had back in the 60s came to see me, which made me feel really good. There are a number of students that connect. They connect by talking to each other, and then they call you up and say, well, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're curious about what you're doing, et cetera, and it's just a nice feeling.
Now, and that really kind of goes to the impact that you can have as a coach or an administrator. Do you feel the same way about the impact that you had on the student athletes during your time here?
I do.
Even now.
Oh, I do. And of course, a couple of one of Corky's divers, one of Don's swimmers came back. It was great to see them. Actually, a friend of Fitz's came up to me this morning and said, are you Jane Grassdorf? And I'm Lorraine Quinn. And I was like, name rings a bell. And then she used to teach Irish folk dance in my folk dancing class. And, had an impact, yes. No. Very much so.
Now for Dave, as a student athlete here, of course, a very successful women's soccer coach. I mean, the assistant for our national championship team. I mean, you're still having an impact on the athletes that we have here, not just our women's athletes, but our male athletes. I mean, how important is that for you as a graduate of the college to be a role model and be impactful?
You do your best you can to have them be raised like you were. and I mentioned in my speech what my parents have done for me, so I'm just trying to relay that on to them to be successful not only as student athletes, but as people as well.
And that's really the important thing, and I really want to talk to the most recent graduates with Lacey and Bill, the impact that your teams had on you and now what you're doing. I mean, two very successful teachers in education and one finance, you're doing very well in your profession. So I'm going to go to Bill first, and what kind of impact did that have for you?
I have actually a really pretty interesting and unique situation in my office. I work with a fellow, my senior partner is 70 years old, but he's a graduate and All-American at Colgate in lacrosse. So lacrosse, to me, is still in my life in a way, and we have kind of a unique bond, and I still have that with my friends here. I even have it in my business relationships, and you have that for the rest of your life. So it's really kind of a neat situation for me. And the irony goes a little further in that my coach Jim Nagel took a head coaching job at Colgate, and so I've had a lot of connections through lacrosse that go into my business life. So I have those memories continually moving forward.
Lacey, what about you?
Well, being a teacher definitely correlates with being a coach at the same time. I take a lot of the things that I learned here at Oneonta in the classroom, definitely here in the field house, because this is where I played, this is where I practiced, but volleyball is a big part of my life, and I show that not only to the students that I have in my math class, but I also show that to the students that I coach at a junior varsity level that I have. It's something that I can't give up. Even though there are days I wish I would, but every time I always want to be back in the gym showing them what I did here.
Now for you, you're still being impactful. I mean, you're still refereeing wrestling, and you're really involved.
High school coach, and the coaches that I had here gave me what I needed to help young kids. I decided to stay in the middle school, junior high school, instead of high school. I wanted to teach them how to, begin wrestling, and I eventually had parents, and then their sons and daughters, and the first time a kid said to me, "Thanks, Coach," I stopped in my tracks and I said, I thought of my high school coach and my college coach. I said, "Wow, he's calling me a coach." So I knew I had influence on these kids, and you try to make them go the straight arrow way, and most of them turned out all right. My favorite story was a little kid come up to me, pulled on my shirt, they called me Mr. B. A little squirt, 78 pounds. He said, "Can you teach me how to wrestle?" I said, "Sure. Why do you want to learn how to wrestle?" "I don't want to be like my brothers." "Why not?" "They're in jail." He ended up being a parent, went to PTA meetings, raised 2 kids. They went through school. He was a postmaster in the town, so he turned out. It gives me a chill when I think of it. So what I learned here helped me teach little kids.
Now, of course, you were on our first varsity wrestling team, but you came here with experience, and as you said here today, that you really had a bunch of wrestlers that didn't have a lot of experience.
And when I say nothing, a wrestling mat and maybe a sweat box and a set of barbells in some closet. So this is heaven. I'd have been in that weight room day and night, on that track, running every day. So I had to improvise to keep my sharpness in the sport. But eventually Mother Nature took over. By the time you had to go student teaching, get a job, look for a job, I gained more weight in 2 years than I did my first 6 years.
Now, of course, you would have been in a similar situation. We had the Chase Gymnasium. Mm-hmm. Now, you had Old Main, the pillars, and you guys had some of that as well, but you were outdoors. But the field situations, but for you, you had the Chase Gymnasium, and that was pretty much it.
There was no weight training. We had no weight room. We used to run up and down those stairs between, the downstairs and the upstairs. That's how we worked out. Like I said, we didn't have volleyball sneakers, the way that, we played in Converse, low-top Converse, and you handed them in at the end of the season, and then I went on to another sport, and I got them back again, and I wore them for basketball, and I wore them for softball, no cleats. Yeah, but and then when we made the national championships, we had to stay over the holiday to practice, so we couldn't go home for Easter. But they closed all the dorms and all the eating facilities. So the coaches actually took us into their homes and fed us, and we slept there. And we ran up and down the streets of Oneonta to get ready for the national championships. You know, they just didn't allot money or time, you know, for postseason play in those days for women.
Right. Now, for Corky and Jane, you guys were on the same staff together in the phys ed department. I mean, was it all pitch in and help out? I mean, we all saw that these athletes were trying to get to that next level. I mean, we had national level competitors. I mean, what kinds of things went on at that time for?
Go ahead first.
It was competitive for the fields, and it was competitive for any facility. You had time, 3 to 5. They would be waiting to come on the field at 5. You'd get off at 5. They would come on. It was down to the second. Right, Jane?
Right. In the pool, for example, I only had Tuesday nights from 7 to 10 for synchronized swimming until second semester when we were getting ready for the show. But meanwhile, you couldn't go until after the swim team or the divers got ready for nationals and then left, and then I had a little more time. But yes, right down to the minute, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10. And Corky had his divers. Don's swimmers would be going down the lane, and all of a sudden a diver would be going in the water. They'd quickly get out, and the swimmers would be coming back. Yeah, it was tight.
I kicked my Division III national champ on the 1 meter board. I kicked him off the team because he did just that. He almost made contact with a swimmer's head. I said, "Get your tail out of here." He slammed the door, disappeared, and I said to myself, I've got trouble. 5 minutes later, the door opens, in he comes, apologizes, and we go back to work.
I just wanted to add, I remember with volleyball practice, when it was time for the basketball team to come in, they'd had to put the hoops down.
And so, you know, we couldn't practice because the ball was constantly hitting the hoops. You know, you had to get out. You know.
So it was get out or you wouldn't. Now for the national competitors, I mean, we all national championship coach, 2 competitors also in the national tournaments. What did that mean for you, Lacey, being able to participate in an NCAA event?
Well, coming in 2000 as a freshman, I'd have to say when we first saw the team, that wasn't our potential at that point. But to see us grow over the next 2 to 3 years, for us to even get to a point where the first time we went to the NCAAs, I think we threw water on our coach, like a big jug of water with ice on it, like after we won the SUNY championship, because it was that important to us. And we worked hard for 2 years to try to get to that point. It really was a great accomplishment. Very proud of it.
Right. Now, Bill, same thing, right? You were in the beginning stages of our men's lacrosse success. And
yeah, very much so. The program was here, but it really was struggling. And we ended up having a good core group of guys. We actually weren't very deep, actually, but the players we had were very good. And actually, my junior year, we had the best record in the country and didn't make the tournament because there was an automatic qualifier, and it does get a little bit political. And we were pretty disappointed. And so to make it our senior year, that was pretty significant for us. And obviously, we were hoping to win a couple games actually because we thought we were good enough to do that. It didn't work out, but we played a very good Middlebury team. And I would say that's one of the things I would love to see in the short term here is to see the program go back to the NCAAs.
Certainly. Now, Dave, you and Tracy built our women's program into a national champion. I mean, and it is, you always say it's about the players and stuff, but the work and the commitment that has to go into that, to building a program like that. I mean, what has that meant for you, and to see it still thrive?
Yeah, it's all about the relationships with them. They were great players, and we've had many All-Americans off that team and others as well. But I don't think I know the 2003 team was not the best team we had at that point. There was other teams. I think the 2 years after, the teams were better as far as technical skill. But that team, 2003, there was no expectations because no one on campus has been there. So when we upset Union in the quarterfinal at Union, when they were, people didn't realize they were probably, without a doubt, the best team we played that year, and they were better than us. But we knew one thing, Tracy and I talked about, that we could beat them with, and we did. We beat them on a restart because they zoned off restarts, and we had a quality opportunity late in the game, and then we hung on. You know, we hung on from there. And then I think the other thing that was terrific, it was the last year that the host team, which they did on campus, we hosted the Final Four here, which was the last time they've ever done that. Now it's at a neutral site. So to host the event here and to see the maintenance crew and the people come together in the city of Oneonta, because people don't understand, it was during Thanksgiving, so all the kids were gone. But to come out on the field and you see the stands packed of not student athletes. They were community members and friends of Tracy and I that just came back over Thanksgiving weekend to fill the stands out there and support that team. And obviously winning in the last, tying the game in the last, minute and a half off a player, Rose Valon, who's here someplace. She pushed her roommate away from the ball. I'll never forget it, with a minute and a half to go, or less than 30 seconds to go. I think that was a minute and a half in overtime. Less than 30 seconds to go. She pushes her away. She never took an indirect or direct ever for us, ever. But she knew time was running out. She serves the ball in, and Brooke puts it in when there's probably, I would say, around 50 people coming through the field house, leaving to go home because they thought the game was over. So then there's this big uproar, and then everybody's back, and then we score in a minute and a half. I mean, it's a great experience, not only for us as coaches, but the players and the fans that were here that day. It was all about never give up. Yeah. You always hear that phrase, never give up, and
that's really what kind of, and again, I mean, we're going to close it up here because, we got time here, but the connection really is the commitment to excellence and striving to be the best, national champions, All-Americans, Players of the Year. But you never, I think you probably say you probably weren't trying to be a Player of the Year. You were just playing and competing and trying to be the best that you could be. And all that, cream rises to the top, and I think that's what, again, connects us all here as Hall of Famers and certainly administrators and all the stuff that we do on a daily basis. And I would love to just congratulate you all again and welcome you back, and hope you'll come back year after year to celebrate the next class of Hall of Famers and beyond. So I want to thank you all and congratulate you again.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank you all for joining us for this very special edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. This was our Hall of Fame edition. And we'd like to remind you that you can continue to follow us and all the news and on what goes on in our department, www.oneontaathletics.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, all the social media sites, so please check us out. We want to thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Inside Red Dragon Sports.